Announcements. Do we have any? This is like 2 weeks in a row. You have a notice in your bulletin regarding George Martin's passing and the memorial service, which will be held here on July 19th at 11 o'clock. It's a Saturday. We are still making plans for Bruce's funeral. It looks as if that will be happening at Christ the King in Woodlawn. I'm in the midst of having a conversation with the rector there, but Bruce seems to have a connection there. We're not quite sure what that connection is, but that seems to be the wishes of the family. My position is I always deal with the family wishes. I don't need to understand the why. But if the family wishes a funeral there, I'll be there to assist the rector for that service. So once we have kind of figured that out, we will let you know when that takes place. You must have an announcement or two or three.
So I monitor some of the Facebook pages, like the mom's group, and because summer's out, summer's here, kids are out of school, there's a lot of need for food supplies. Especially ones that I can drop off to the free pantries. They know that some of the schools or some of the areas have the free lunches for the kids, but a lot of them don't have transportation to take their kids there. So there's an added need for, like SpaghettiOs or tuna fish and stuff that they can make at home. So if you are willing, we're still collecting for that. And if you're cleaning out your pantries, can you kind of make sure that it's not super expired, because that just goes right in the garbage. I appreciate it. And don't forget Panera, still going on. I've been dropping some of those off at the free pantries, because literally in a day they're gone, so it's still fresh. So keep that in mind. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay. You have homework today. So our first attempt at mission didn't fail. I do these things, and every time I do them, I learn something. And what I learned this time is don't give people the option of a phrase, because you all came up with phrases, and phrases are less helpful. Also, we seem to have some difficulty with parts of speech. We get confused. Like we put gerunds in places of nouns and adjectives in places of nouns. So a noun, any English teachers here? A noun is a person, place, or thing. Exactly. So if it ends with an ing, we've already used it. It's part of your identity statement. We've captured it. It's good. Also, family, for instance, comes up often in these exercises. Every small church in Christendom, I don't care what brand you are, every small church in Christendom will say, we are family. Of course, well, that's fine. That's great. That's part of your identity. It is not why you exist. You don't exist to be family. As the church, there are other reasons why you exist. So when we're looking at mission, we're looking at something that expresses the soul of this congregation. So it needs to be unique enough that it applies to us, not to everyone else. Secondly, it answers the why question. So you put a word in, and you can't say, if you put a word in and it sounds like a who, it's not going to work. It's a why, not a who, right? Purpose. So it articulates purpose and direction, is unique, and it inspires. That last thing is really important. Now, the way the exercise works is I'm going to ask you today for just 3 nouns. 3 nouns. Person, place, or thing. Just 3. not 15. Okay? Some examples again from other congregations that fit the bill. St. Mary's in Abington, they used mosaic because as they did this work, they thought they were monolithic. They thought everyone in that congregation loved the 28 prayer book. That was their identity, that was their purpose. Their purpose in life is to make sure they're the only church in the Diocese of Maryland where the 28 prayer book is still used every Sunday. Except that wasn't true. And when they did the CAT also, they discovered that they are a very, very diverse congregation. They're all over the place, whether it's theology, whether it's politics. And so they wanted to capture in a word their diversity. And so they came up with a mosaic because a mosaic gives you a picture, but the picture is made up of unique pieces of tile or glass, right? So you look at one picture, you don't see the whole thing. You always have to kind of step back when you're looking at a mosaic to kind of take the whole picture in. So they use mosaic. Anchor was really popular a few years ago, or Lighthouse, or Haven. But you get the gist of what we're kind of looking for. So here's what I'm going to do. Instead of asking you to write your 3 words now, we're going to come back to this exercise at the very end of the service. Okay? So without distracting yourself too much, we're keeping the eye on the prize. Between now and the end of the service, try to, in your mind's eye, come up with a word. We are a church, and we are not a club or a civic organization. So that part of our soul has something to do with Jesus. Because if it doesn't, then we should close our doors like right now. Because we've ceased being a church. So if it's just about us and just about comfort or those sort of things, that's really not why the church exists. Although that is something, that's a benefit we receive from being in church, it is not the why of our existence. Okay? So, is that clearer? Nouns, not verbs, not adjectives, not gerunds. I was so bad at parts of speech. What I realized is that when English is your second language, it's a lot harder to figure out parts of speech than when it's your first language. My parents were so desperate that before we moved here, they were going to send me to a Catholic school, figuring that the Catholic school will teach me parts of speech and I'll be able to pass the exam that you have to take in England in order to be able to go on the university path versus the factory path. And for some reason, they thought I was smart enough to go on the university path. And I had one final chance, and then we moved here. So, a few minutes at the very end of the service for you to do this, okay?